first thing we're going to talk about when it comes to the tips of the guitar practice routine. Number one tip is to look at one skill at a time. So when we're playing, you can get caught up in, okay, so I need to hold my thumb here, and wait a minute, he said that I need to kind of strum from my wrist. I don't really have my fingers arched, so it can be a lot. So one skill at a time, you might focus, one of the most recent things we did was talk about a D chord, and you might focus on just getting those fingertips close to those frets for a clean, sound for that chord. So that's one skill, is playing on the fingertips, and I focus on that. Another skill might be palm muting, and I'll get in that later, but you might just focus on that, or just the rhythm, the strum patterns we talked about. So it's one thing at a time. And the next tip I'm going to give you, number two, is to use a practice log. And it sounds a little like school, a little nerdy. I'm kind of a nerd, so and actually these days it's kind of cool to be a nerd. So the practice log, it doesn't have to be fancy. You can get this, you can download this in the membership site. Very simple and straightforward, just kind of the date, what you're working on, some details, how much time you've spent, and that day of the week. And the reason I say to use a practice log is because there are a ton of skills to master when it comes to playing the guitar. We'll make it look easy, but there are a lot of skills to keep track of. If you're using a practice log and you're writing things down, it's much more likely that they'll get done, for one, that you'll practice them and that you'll master them. So writing those skills down helps you keep track of where you come from and where you want to go. Just kind of, common sense there, but the practice log is a very powerful thing to use for that. One of the things I talk about, actually tip number three, in addition to that practice log, is you're going to want to use a timer. So tip number three is using a timer. You can use that from your phone or your tablet, whatever you want to use. And it's important because you're putting a time to that piece or that skill you're practicing, so you can put as much thought and effort into focusing on that skill. So one of the things I tell folks is just for 1 minute. I'm talking about like 10 to 15 minutes a day of practicing. 1 minute, just play the chords you know. Strum them. Do the single notes. Then chord change is one of the, probably the hardest thing to do when you're especially, well, not even first starting out, just in general, is switching in between chords, changing chords. So one thing a timer does, it comes in really handy. Set it for 60 seconds and see how many chord changes you can do in 60 seconds. We'll talk about that D that we just learned. So going from D to A, that would be one chord change. So hit the timer for 60 seconds and just count. 1, 2 chord changes. You want to work up to being able to do 60 chord changes in 60 seconds. So it's looking more like this. More like that, as you move along. But that timer does that for you, helps you focus for those 60 seconds. That's all you really need. Thanks for watching. For more in-depth lessons and to join me in the community, visit relaxandlearnguitar.com.